मौत तो एक कविता है, मुझसे एक कविता का वादा है, मिलेगी मुझको।
Magnetic recording brought recording technology into the households of the common people. The story goes that during the Second World War, the Allies became aware of radio broadcasts that seemed to be playbacks, but their audio quality was indistinguishable from that of a live broadcast, and their duration was far longer than was possible with 78 RPM discs. At the end of the war, the Allies captured a number of German magnetophone recorders from Radio Luxembourg. These recorders incorporated all of the key technological features of analog magnetic recording. For magnetic recording, a thin ribbon is coated with a ferromagnetic substance. In an unmagnetized state, the tiny domains are arranged randomly, causing zero magnetic polarity. But when the ribbon passes through the recording head, the electromagnet of the head magnetizes the coating. The stronger the sound signal, the stronger is the current in the recording head, enhancing the magnetization. The magnetization pattern on the ribbon corresponds to the sound recorded. Magnetic recording gave a big boost to radio broadcasts. It was no longer necessary to broadcast programs live. Programs could be pre-recorded and edited. Unwanted material could be quickly removed, and new material could be inserted at any point along the tape. As a result, it became possible to produce multi-layered and complex tracks for audio programs.
Again, I'm on a crusade for a new man.
The technology of magnetic recording also revolutionized sound recording in movies. During shooting, the sound was now recorded on a tape deck which was synchronized with the camera. This sound was used primarily as a guide track. Later, at the post-production stage, a number of film strips with magnetic coating were used to record the different layers of sound in synchronization with the visuals.
70 mm time came when the soundtracks were magnetic. Because optical didn't have so wide range of frequencies to reproduce. Whereas in 70 mm there were 6-track stereos. If you have seen in those days the posters and all 6-track stereos, phonic sound and all those, where there were 6 magnetic tracks coated onto the print. One is beyond the perforation and 2 after the perforations, before the picture, both sides that way. So that was the time. But one problem remained that the print cannot run for more number of times, because every time it runs the magnetic coating gets rather powdered and spill out. gradually the tonality, the quality, the intelligibility of sound gradually decreases. So those magnetic track really, one print could run maybe 100 times, and then again you have to restripe and again re-record the sound, and rather transfer the sound and go for the run once more. Similarly, in Indian cinema also we tried a few 70mm, there were few films including Sholay. There were few tracks in Bengali also, it came in 4-track stereo format, where again magnetic tracks were used, very thin like tracks were there, very thin like needle rather. So there also the same thing happened, the magnetic coating goes out and then the quality deteriorates every day, every run.
The separate magnetic tracks were then merged into one mixed magnetic track, which was then converted into an optical track and married to the visuals. Multiple copies of these married prints were released for distribution.
প্লে করে দেব কি সংস্কৃতির সব রকম দিক নিয়ে কলকাতা বেতার বা আকাশবাণী আজ অনুষ্ঠান প্রচার করছে। আমাদের আরেকটি বিশেষ দিকের কথা বলা দরকার, সেটা হচ্ছে আর্কাইভাল লাইব্রেরি। এখানে বহু মূল্যবান অনুষ্ঠান, বহু মহান মানুষের কণ্ঠস্বর রক্ষিত রয়েছে, বহু বড় বড় ওস্তাদের গায়কের গায়িকার গান এখানে সংরক্ষিত রয়েছে, যেগুলোর থেকে মাঝে মাঝে আমরা সিডি করে বাজারে বার করছি। আর এই সব আর্কাইভাল লাইব্রেরির প্রোগ্রাম মাঝে মধ্যেই আমাদের বেতার থেকে, কলকাতা আকাশবাণী থেকে শোনা যায়। যেমন মহালয়ার যে অনুষ্ঠান, সেটাও বীরেন্দ্রকৃষ্ণ ভদ্র যা করে গেছেন, তার কণ্ঠস্বর, বাণী কুমার যে স্ক্রিপ্ট লিখেছিলেন, সেই অনুষ্ঠান এখনও তো খুবই জনপ্রিয়। বোধহয় পৃথিবীতে এটা একটা রেকর্ড যে একটা অনুষ্ঠান এত বছর ধরে জনপ্রিয় হয়ে আছে এবং মানুষ এখনও শুনতে চাইছে। মহালয়া ওই সময়ে প্রতি বছরই রেকর্ড হতো এবং সেই রেকর্ডিংগুলো সযত্নে এখনও রক্ষিত আছে। এরকম অনেক কটা রেকর্ডিং আছে। এখন যে মহালয়াগুলো আমরা সম্প্রচার করি, প্রতি বছরই তার থেকে বিভিন্ন যা সংরক্ষণ আছে তার থেকে মিলিয়ে মিশিয়ে নিয়ে আবার নতুন করে এডিটিং করে সেটাকে সম্প্রচার করার ব্যবস্থা করি আমরা। বহু শ্রোতা মাঝে মধ্যেই বিশেষ বিশেষ নাটক শুনতে চান এবং এরকম বহু নাটক আছে যা অসাধারণ, সেইগুলো তারা শুনতে চান, আমরা সম্প্রচার করি। এবং গান, বহু ওস্তাদের গান, বহু স্বনামধন্য শিল্পীর গান তারা শুনতে চান এবং সেগুলো আমরা সম্প্রচার করি মাঝে মধ্যেই।
পারলাম না থাকতে কি কাণ্ড করলে তুমি?
The coming of magnetic tapes helped the recording industry too. Masters of all these records are recorded in spools. The spools are safely stored in the archives of the recording company. The best thing about magnetic recording is that it is not permanent. If the artist makes a mistake, the recording can be erased and recorded again. A tape deck has 3 heads. an erase head, a record head, and a playback head. When the record button is pressed, both the erase head and the record head get activated. First, the previous recording is erased, and then fresh recording is done. A high-frequency, strong alternating current passes through the erase head and demagnetizes the tape. Then, a fresh magnetization pattern is imprinted on it by the recording head. To ensure that the magnetization pattern corresponds exactly with the sound recorded, the magnetizing current and the magnetized field should be proportional. It may not automatically happen if the signal is feeble. That is why the signal is always fed with a bias current to ensure that the recorded sound is a true replica of the original. When the playback button is pressed, only the playback head comes in touch with the tape. The magnetic field of the moving tape generates a current in the electromagnet of the head. The pattern of this current corresponds exactly to the pattern of magnetization in the tape, which in turn is an impression created by the sound recorded. The feeble current from the playback head is amplified and converted into sound signals. The tape is moved past the heads at a constant speed. This speed is maintained by a spindle called a capstan. It rotates at a constant speed, and the tape is pressed across it by a rubber wheel called the pressure roller. Speed is of utmost importance in the recording and playback mechanism. If there is a mismatch between the recording speed and playback speed, a female voice may turn into a male voice, and vice versa.
मुझसे कविता का वादा है मिलेगी मुझको डूबती नब्जों में जब दर्द को नींद आने लगे
मौत तो एक कविता है मुझसे कविता का वादा है मिलेगी मुझको डूबती नब्जों में जब दर्द को नींद आने लगे दर्द सा चेहरा लिए चांद उफक तक पहुंचे
The recording speed in professional machines is 15 inches per second. The amateurs usually compromise with the machines, recording at half the speed, that is, at 7.5 inches per second. In the 1950s and 60s, the tape deck had entered many households as a curiosity item for recording voices of family members.
जर्द सा चेहरा लिए चांद उफक तक पहुंचे दिन अभी पानी में हो रात किनारे के करीब ना अंधेरा ना उजाला हो ना अभी रात ना दिन जिस्म जब खत्म
and performers used these to keep a record of their performances. Many professional tape machines record one track of sound along a tape, which is 1/4 of an inch wide. If stereophonic sound is to be recorded, special heads are used to record 2 tracks along the tape. Stereo quickly became the norm for commercial classical recordings and radio broadcasts, although many pop music and jazz recordings continued to be issued in monophonic sound until the mid-1960s. The next major development in magnetic tape was multi-track recording, in which the tape is divided into multiple tracks parallel to each other. Because they are carried on the same medium, the tracks stay in perfect synchronization.
এটা যে স্পুল টেপ, স্পুল রেকর্ডার টেপ। 8টা ট্র্যাক রেকর্ড করা যায় এতে। 8 ট্র্যাক টেপ। সাইজ হচ্ছে হাফ ইঞ্চি। এতে 8 ট্র্যাক রেকর্ড করা যায় 30 মিনিট। রেকর্ডিংটা এই সাইডটায় হয়। এটা কোয়ার্টার ইঞ্চ স্পুল টেপ। এটা 45 মিনিট রেকর্ড করা যাবে।
Much of the credit for the development of multi-track recording goes to guitarist, composer and technician Les Paul, who also helped design the famous electric guitar that bears his name.
I'm back, honey.
Hi. You know, I tied this string around my finger to remember to tell you something when you got back from shopping. I forgot what it was.
Oh, not again. Well, let's do the World's Waiting for the Sunrise while you try and think of it. Dear one,
His experiments with tapes and recorders in the early 1950s led him to order the first custom-built 8-track recorder from Ampex, and his pioneering recordings with his then-wife, singer Mary Ford, were the first to make use of the technique of multi-tracking to record separate elements of a musical piece asynchronously. That is, separate elements could be recorded at different times. Paul's technique enabled him to listen to the tracks he had already taped and record new parts in sync alongside them. Music now became more a recording art than a performance art.
Hey Jude, don't make it bad. Take a sad song and make it better.
All of the Beatles' classic mid-60s recordings were recorded in this way. The remarkable success of the Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band album in 1967 marked a turning point in the music industry. From that point on, music has been built as often as it has been played.
The minute you let her under your skin, then you begin to make it.
Spools of recorded music were never sold commercially. Perhaps the reason was that multiple copies of these spools could not be made easily. All that changed with the invention of the cassette recorder. Philips introduced cassettes in the market in 1963. Cassettes run at a speed of only 4.8 centimeters in 1 second and use a thin tape so that a reasonable length can be accommodated. The tape, which is only 3.8 millimeters wide, accommodates 2 mono tracks or 2 pairs of stereo tracks.
Here comes the sun. Here comes the sun.
After the tape has run in one direction, the cassette is turned over so that the other track can then be used. Since the same information is squeezed into a much narrower space, the recording quality is much inferior to that of the spool. However, the inferior quality was compensated by easy reproducibility. Easy recording technique invited piracy. The market was flooded with cheap pirated cassettes.
Hello.
Recording levels, overload distortion, and residual tape hiss are three areas that have to be looked into by professional recordists. If the recording level is very high, the recording will be distorted. This occurs when the tape approaches saturation, that is, maximum magnetization. Then, further increase in recording current does not result in proportional increase in tape magnetization, so distortion occurs. If the recording level is very low, the tape hiss will dominate. Signal to noise ratio will be high. Tape hiss is the residual hiss of the tape. This cannot be eliminated, but can be rendered practically inaudible by the noise reduction process. The thrust of technological development throughout history has been to make technology user-friendly and bring it within the reach of the layperson. The magnetic recording technology allowed him to record his personal history and find a new expression for his creative potential. The flip side of this development was rampant piracy of professionally recorded music that forced the big names in the music industry to close shop or reinvent themselves. Magnetic recording brought recording technology into the households of the common people. Magnetic recording also gave a big boost to radio broadcasts and recording companies. In monophonic magnetic recording, a single track is recorded along a quarter-inch tape. The recording speed is 15 inches per second. In multi-track recording, up to 8 tracks can be recorded separately on the same tape. Composer, singer, guitarist Les Paul is credited with the development of the multi-track recording technology. The introduction of the cassette recorder by Philips in 1963 further simplified the recording process. However, this easy recording technique invited piracy. This forced the big names in the music industry to close shop or reinvent themselves.